Well, Community Day has come and gone in the 2K community, and we're here to talk about it. Break it all down, all the juicy tidbits, all of the lies, the misinformation, the baiting. We've been baited. The 5-9s. And we got a lot to talk about today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the NBA 2K podcast here on ITGK Sports. I am your host in the game, Kaya, and alongside me, as always, my brother and point guard, Super Shadow 515. Say hello.
Wait, I am actually the point guard?
Well, when I'm not running point guard myself, as I've been making an effort to do that this last couple of months, help keep the game fresh, play a new position. I'm actually starting to get okay at it. I'm still not as good as you, but I'm all right. I get friend requests from random people I play with now. So I think that's a good sign. Then again, they're randoms. I don't know how the brains of randoms work.
It's impossible to know how the brains of randoms work, okay? I mean, there is a lot for us to talk about. Now, we will say going in, we have not played 2K25. Obviously, we're nowhere near ready or have anywhere close to the level of clout in the community to actually be a part of Community Day. We are a long ways away from that. So we're going based off of what all of you guys have. The videos that we've seen, the tweets, the plethora of posts that people have made, whether it's pictures or videos, and comments that have been made about the game, the gameplay, the builder. There's a lot to talk about. So we should probably just jump right in.
So
get straight to the good stuff.
So let's start with the builder, because that's the news that dropped today as of recording. This will probably go up Thursday or Friday, but we're recording this on Wednesday. So let's just go ahead and, I guess first we should address the image that's on the screen. As this has existed since the cover dropped. I think it was the day the cover dropped. I made this. 2K's cover art sucked so bad. I decided I would make my own, and it's not great. I'm very amateurish, but I think I did a better job than 2K. Sue me. Shout outs to Dikembe Mutombo.
Of course, you'd put a center on the cover.
Of course, I would put the center on the cover. I didn't put Joel Embiid, which is probably who most people who know me would have thought I would have picked, or Wilt Chamberlain, another pick that I possibly could have made.
At any rate, here is the, this channel's version of the 2K cover. Nothing crazy, but personally, I do also think that it's better than the cover that we got.
You're biased too.
Yeah, I am biased, but I also look at all three of the covers and say, I could throw that together in 5 minutes, and I am not a professional, nor am I paid to do it. Seriously, take a picture of Jason Tatum screaming, crop him out of that, and put it over a blurry background of a generic court, and you have a 2K cover. Got it.
Yeah, it's like they took the concept art, like this is what we want the cover to look like, and they said, okay, that's the cover. Wait, no, we want the cover to look like this. Yeah, we said that's the cover. That's how the conversation went.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. At any rate, I mean, the cover is something that we'll think about for all of 2 days until we get used to seeing the splash screen as we load the game, and then we won't think about it at all the rest of the year.
As long as we don't see Jason Tatum screaming at us for 30 minutes like we saw Paul George screaming at us for 30 minutes. Or Zion Williamson, for those people.
True. At any rate, moving on from the cover, let's actually get to the builder.
Yes, and first things first, we'll cover the news that I found out just before we started recording, and I went and double-checked it myself straight from Twitter on Zach Timmerman's Twitter feed. The builder that was shown at Community Day, it's similar to what's going to be in the final game, but specifically the small guards have been tweaked. And he mentioned 5.9s in particular, which is a build that a lot of people have been putting out. This 5.9 build that's a 4-way star, to use the build video terminology. 4-way star, because, there's 4 different parts of a basketball court. But regardless, so these 4-way demigods that people have been making, they don't actually exist. At least that's what it sounds like. But now we have no idea. I was actually legitimately considering building a small guard before they said small guards were going to get better. And then I was like, oh, well, small guards are actually going to be good. So I really might want to make a small guard then, and really jump on this sub 6 foot bandwagon. I see the 5.9 builds come out, and I'm like, okay, now I'm going to have to make one. Whether I want one or not, if I'm ever going to play point guard, that build is too good to not use.
And then come to find out, according to what we've seen, the 5.9s have been tuned down a little bit. We'll have to see if that's true, and if so, how much they've been tuned down. But honestly, I think it's a good thing, because you look at a 5'9", 5'10" build that gets a 96. It's like a 96 ball handle and a 93 driving dunk and a 94 3-point shot, and it's like, oh, and a 90-something steal rating, and it's like, seriously? This is allowed?
It reminded me of that 2K23 build. You remember the offensive superstar? I forget what exactly the measurements were, but it was 6'3", and it had like a 90-something driving dunk, which gave you all the max driving dunk stuff, and this mid to high 90s 3-point shot, and this mid to high 90s ball handle. You remember this build?
Yes, I remember that build.
So the whole this whole issue with the 5.9s and the way the builds were looking, it was reminding me of that build. But legitimately, if they had kept this in the game, it would have been the only guard build to make. Why would you make anything else? That would have been the one saving feature, because it looks like... Now, you've seen some gameplay, so correct me if I'm going a little overboard here. Looks like stretch bigs and tall shooters might be back this year. Like lethal. Shoot over those kinds of shooters this year.
It's hard to tell. Now, you've seen more of the guys that have been actually playing against other people than I have. A lot of what I've seen is against the AI, but it's against the AI, what I've seen.
I want to say I saw Kevin Durant in the in one of the gameplay things shoot over a point guard who was literally, could have reached out and touched his chest, hand up and everything, and he just shot over it.
Okay.
So there's been a lot of footage, and it's not always on Hall of Fame. Even then, the gameplay engine has changed since Community Day. But it looks like they might be trying to bring those taller shooters back. So that's something I want to test on Wednesday when the game drops. Next Wednesday, week from now. That and hook shots I need to test. Definitely.
Before they get patched?
I might make a legend hook specialist build this year.
Before they get patched?
Before they get patched.
Because people say what they want. I'm going to say it right now. There are a few things that have been patched every single year.
Steals and post scores.
Steals and post scores have been patched every single year without fail. So I'm expecting one point guard to look at a center, hit a post hook over him, and say, he'll start crying foul, saying, "This is unfair. This shot is too good." And then everybody else jumps on it because they want to be guards and not let the big men sit in the post. And suddenly post scoring is non-existent unless you spin or drop step somebody, which is not how post scoring actually works, people. Now again, I am a little bit biased. I play with a post scorer. I like being a post scorer from time to time when I play as a big. Now that's not saying I don't like to be the face-up, driving, athletic, finishing type, undersized big kind of thing. the park big, as people would call it. But I do like a post scorer, and people kill the post game every year, crying to 2K saying it needs to get patched. Does it need to be patched on day one? Oftentimes, yes. Does it need to get patched past that? Oftentimes, no, and it does anyways. So we'll see what happens this year, but it's just something to think about with your first build, looking at the tendency of how things have changed in the past.
Yeah, that's something I definitely have to take into consideration as I look to make my first big man build of the year, whether it's the first build I make or the second. I plan on being either the point guard of the team to start or the center. As much as I do like playing wing, and I'm more of a wing scorer than I'm more of a Carmelo Anthony or a Tracy McGrady kind of player, which I haven't made many T-Mac builds because I don't like to just do what literally everyone else is doing. It seems boring and unoriginal to me. So I try to do things that are unique. Like I make post-scoring wings that literally I fade on people as a 6'7". And I back them down and drop step them and do stuff like that. Not wholly original in and of itself either this year, because post control was something that so many people got just for Unpluckable. So they worked elements of a post game into their game. But
well, here's the thing. Not everybody did, though.
Not everybody did.
There were a lot of people. The majority of those taller wings that got post control got it just for Unpluckable. I remember going to multiple 1v1 games against those guys, and it's like, oh, they have a 92 post control, and I'm on a 6'2" guard with no interior defense, and they're not posting me up. They're continuing to try and shoot over me or drive on me. Why? You have the post control. You literally move me out of the way and take the easiest shot of your life. Can't do that. I'm a guard.
Well, and as glitchy as it seems, here's this guard who's handling the ball and he puts his butt into me and drop steps me, I'm sorry, if you're 6'8" or 6'9" and you have great post footwork, why would you not go into the post, at least from time to time? I don't know if you guys have watched LeBron James play basketball, but this guy who can dribble and drive and shoot has what? He has a post bag. It's not hugely deep, but LeBron is a quality post player because he's 6'9" and he's strong and he's got good footwork. So if you're going to build a 6'8" player who's strong and long and has great post footwork, you have LeBron's post bag. Use it.
Yeah. So I will say, back on wings post scoring, while we're on the subject briefly for some odd reason, a lot of the post scoring badges, are available at shorter heights. So, for example, Rise Up, not that you're going to be going crazy with standing dunks because you can't get standing contacts, but Rise Up is a minimum height of 6'6", and that's the tallest. Post Powerhouse is a minimum height of 6'4". Post Up Poet for your post moves is a minimum height of 6 foot. And Paint Prodigy for your close shots is a minimum height of 6'3". Now that's actually interesting. There could legitimately be a place for a guard build with a decently high close shot to get Paint Prodigy and score over other guards that don't have interior defense.
So you're making a Mark Jackson build.
I'm going to walk the ball up the floor and then post up a guy at 18 feet. Let's go. That's a super weird play style. But it could technically work, especially since, and don't deny it, a lot of people out there, when they make a guard, and I've done this too a lot, I'm going to get away from that this year. I've already started getting away from it, but I'm going to do it fully this year. They don't get any kind of interior defense on their guards, because that's not their job. Well, what happens when your 6'9" park big is stuck on the other 6'9" that has an 80-something 3-ball and hits in the corner, and now you're stuck guarding the guy with a really good driving layup and or dunk rating? Oops. Now you need interior defense. So,
And I, on my no money spent point guard build, which I've been grinding out, it's up to a 79 now. So that's a decent chunk of change. That's like 80k, 85k VC. Especially when you take into account the fact that I have a fit and I paid for the animations with VC that I grinded. Didn't actually pay for it, but still. So probably like somewhere between 80k and 100k VC total to do all of this. And like I had to grind up certain attributes on defense, so I'm like weighing, what do I want? Do I want my strength? Do I want my perimeter defense? Do I want my I got interior defense on this build because I had the same thought you did of, you know, I need to make sure that I'm 6, was it build 6'2", 6'1"? I think I'm 6'1".
Something like that.
I need to make sure that this build can do at least something on defense. I have legitimately stopped centers from scoring in the paint, just holding my hands up, not jumping, just holding my hands up. They wilt over me, just fall apart because...
And we're not talking Wilt Chamberlain, we're talking about wilting like a dried up leaf.
Yeah, exactly. Because they think, oh, I can just shoot over this weak little point guard who's wearing a brown shirt, and they go to take that shot, and their center build just falls away from me and puts up this weak sauce little layup.
Yeah. Now you can't expect to always stop centers.
No. That's still like a 60-65% shot.
Right. The point still stands, and you don't need to do anything crazy. But my 2 cents is get some interior defense. A 50 or 60, in my experience, is enough.
If you body them up on a drive and their layup is poorly timed, or they don't have a great layup rating, you know, they might miss. I mean, that's what you need, right? Force them to,
Right.
you know, like if they're elite at laying up the ball, they're going to beat you anyway.
Right. And it, especially from what I've seen on guard builds, you know, I have a 6'4" guard build that has interior defense, block, and rebounding, and it's stupid cheap. And it adds a lot to the value of that build. Anyways, now that we've gotten off this soapbox, we should probably move on from interior defense on point guards, because that's what everybody wants to hear.
Hey, there'll be room for it this year with the extra points that you get. Honestly,
Yeah.
I thought that the builder would be more changed than it was when I saw the first few glimpses that we got, like 2 weeks ago. I was thinking, man, this is going to be crazy. We're going to get all kinds of super rare, crazy, weird, stupid builds, you know? And what did we get? 2K24 with some sauce.
I mean, especially from what I've seen, it looks to me like the wing builds in particular, and this is something that we've kind of talked about. You mentioned it earlier today, well before we started recording, it seems like they kind of took wing builds as the basis, because those 6'6" to 6'8" builds were the go-to builds, and they brought the guards and bigs up to that level a little bit. Because from what I'm seeing, that's tracking.
Well, and the 6'9" bigs that I've seen, like Laker fan posted one of his.
Yeah.
You can make that build in 24 almost exactly. So it's not really juiced that much. But then I've seen 7'1s that look like they have a little bit more, maybe. Mostly it's the small guards. It's not so much the taller ones. However,
that's the thing. Everybody was building those, you know, tall guards and wings because they could do everything. You go up against that one guy that is actually him. He's a 6'8" point guard that can do literally everything inside and out on both ends of the ball.
The only thing that bigs need, they don't need attributes like the short guards do. The only thing they need is the ability to shoot over 6'8". Take that 7', 7'1", and give them the ability to score somewhat consistently on 6'8" builds.
Yep.
That's all they need.
Yeah.
And it looks like we might get that this year, if I'm being honest.
Maybe. We'll have to see. specifically looking at, we should probably, focus this conversation a little bit. Looking at guard builds, obviously the 5'9", the really short builds looked absolutely insane. But we kind of covered that already, where it looks like they're gonna, tone that down a little bit, and that's honestly a good thing. Because even though he's 5'9", if you're allowing a guy to do literally everything, and not just do everything, but have 90 plus in each of the main 4 attributes, driving dunk, 3-point shot, ball handle, and, whatever he wants for defense, and even mid 90s to high 90s for some of those attributes, it's just too much. What I'm curious to see is what the balance is going to be on like the 6'3" to 6'4" guards. Because that's kind of where I'm thinking of going for my first build, or at least my first guard build, is like a taller guard, not a actual tall guard. To me, that's a wing. I'd build that as a wing, but something in the 6'3" to 6'4" range. Let me double check some badge height requirements here. Yeah, I'd go at least 6'3". You can get, I guess, high flying denier at 6'3" minimum. Now again, that would depend on ratings, but I assume if they set the height at 6'3", you could get at least bronze at 6'3", which would be interesting because you used to have to be 6'4" for that. But I would probably go for one of those bigger guard builds and build a two-way that would be able to keep up for the most part with the 5'9" or the shorter guard builds and be troublesome to the 6'6" to 6'8" guys. Something that can kind of play in both directions, Because I feel like if these really short builds are going to be the new meta, or at least become part of the meta next to the taller guards, the 6'6" to 6'8" guards, I get the feeling that the 6'3" to 6'4" is going to get lost in the shuffle. And there might be some value in having a build like that can play against both and have advantages against both. Not pronounced advantages, but a little bit faster and quicker than the 6'8s to give them some trouble, while still being tall enough and good enough defensively to stop them, and being quick enough to stay with the 5'9" builds and be able to use your size and strength against them.
If you're right about that, then the builder's properly balanced. Because then you're saying, okay, 5'9" is viable, 6'3" is viable, 6'6" is viable, 6'9" is viable, 7 foot is viable. Then the only thing left would be 7'3".
I want to get away from literally every time I start a game, I look and it's like it's a 3v3 game. The point guard is 6'8", the small forward or the shooting guard or second point guard is 6'8", and the small forward or power forward is 6'8" or 6'9". And they can all do just about everything to varying levels. It got to the point where I would look at the attributes to get an idea of what my man was, and I'd look at the 3-point shot rating. I wouldn't even look at the build title. I'd look at the height, the top 4 attributes, and the 3-point shot rating. I'd take all of that in about 2 seconds and be done and ready to start the game.
Basically, how good of a 3-point shooter is he, so how well can I play the drive, versus how much do I have to focus on shutting down his shot.
Right. And is he a 2-way? That's basically it. Or a lockdown. And it just got somewhere between frustrating and disappointing, because it's variations on the same 2 or 3 builds game after game after game. It got frustrating and boring.
I will say this much, as a big man, it was honestly almost worse, because between the 6'9" and 7 foot range that you saw just about every inch in that range. Mostly they were 6'9" or like 7 foot. But there wasn't really any difference in any of those builds. It was just how fast they were and how good they handled the ball. That was
right.
it.
That was the big difference. And then the taller ones would be more likely to be, standing dunkers, better shot blockers, better rebounders, that kind of stuff. There was a balance there, but it's like they could all do a lot of the same stuff, except for like ball handling. The taller builds couldn't handle
honestly,
the ball.
the NBA's versatility has killed diversity in 2K. Because versatility in the NBA means that a player like Kristaps Porzingis or Kevin Durant or Giannis Antetokounmpo or, all of these other like guys who are in that 7-foot plus range, Victor Wembanyama, who's, well on the upper end of that for sure, but still, like skill set wise, can put the ball on the floor and dribble, and can shoot from the perimeter, even off the dribble. They can facilitate somewhat. They have defensive chops. So, like, 2K is stuck in this middle ground between we want versatile builds so that you can play like your favorite NBA players, and we want diverse builds to keep people from always playing against the same build over and over and over again. 2K's stuck in between those two things.
Well, here's the part of the problem. It's a lot simpler than all of that. What happens when you have players that want to make a Kevin Durant build and a Ben Wallace build? If you allow them to make either, you allow them to make both, because it's an open builder.
Mm-hmm.
So I can have a 6'9" player that shoots like Kevin Durant and defends the rim like Ben Wallace. Even though technically the 7-footers are better interior defenders, they can still play really good interior defense because, at least in the past, I assume it's probably similar this year, gold anchor was enough. And you could stop just about anybody.
Honestly, I think I mentioned this in the recording we had that got scrapped due to technical difficulties. So I'm about to talk about the builder. I'm editing this in post as I'm working on the video. I am going to talk about the diversity of builds that the community wants, while 2K has a versatile builder, and how, in my opinion, there will never be build diversity if the builder continues to allow fully versatile build creation tools, and that the builder needs to become more restricted in order to have that diversity that people want. I use the word versatile for both things, so it's going to be a little confusing to follow. But basically what I'm saying is, if with the make your own builder, people will always make a jack of all trades or Swiss Army knife build, and that will always be the most popular build, instead of making more unique individual builds. Those builds will still exist, but the do-it-all builds will be more popular. So I hope I cleared that up. The 2K builder will never be properly versatile until they get rid of the do-it-all builder. I say do-it-all builder like you can make a do-it-all build, and I guess you can, but it's difficult. You make some sacrifices. Specifically, the old adage goes, jack of all trades, master of none. You know how the rest of that ends? Oftentimes better than a master of one. A jack of all trades, but a master of none is oftentimes better than a master of one. So
don't build a 99 3-point shot build. That's what you're saying.
Here's the thing. You can have a lot of fun with a 3-point shot build, and it can be effective. But you tell me, you made a 3-point shot build that had 99. Was it better than another guard build that would have had like a 92, 93 3-ball and that 95 ball handle and more speed and a better pass accuracy instead of that 99 3-ball that was so expensive?
No, it was not better.
The jack of all trades was better than the master of one. As long as that's the thing. And you know what? They can nerf it. They can nerf it. They can nerf it. They can nerf it. That's what they've done for years. This is the first year they've buffed it since they came out with the super versatile builder back in 2K21. So this is our 5th iteration of this builder. It will not be promoting versatile builds until you eliminate the ability to make a versatile build, which is why people want the archetype system back or the pie chart system back, which are versions of a more limited builder. It forces you to make a sacrifice. Even in those builders, what were the most popular builds? Like, go back to 2K20. 2K20 is a 2K that so many people love if they were around to play it back then. And I was. So I can tell you exactly what the meta was.
The answer to your question is red, yellow at every position.
Red, yellow at every single position. The height changed, but it was the same pie chart.
And why? Because it could do a little of everything.
It got contact dunks. It got speed boost ball handling. It was a quality defender because red, like if you've seen the current builder, red is the defense part of the builder. Those colors come from 2K20. So that red-yellow had speed boost ball handling, contact dunks, quality defense, and rebounding.
And just enough shooting to make it work. And who knows, maybe you make this the big man or red-green. But it's still like he has a bit, just enough finishing, just enough playmaking. He's a good defender and a good better shooter than yellow. People have been doing it for years.
Mm-hmm. And so because of that, the 2K online meta for the competitive scene has gotten stale. And that's only half of the problem. The other half is the competitive side of the community, which doesn't want the meta to change. But that's its own issue. I'm not part of the competitive side of the community. I don't really want to be part of the competitive side of the community. So,
blissfully unaware. That's where you aim to be. And honestly, that's not a bad thing, because the higher up you get, unless you get to the very top, the content creators, the people that are, popular, those guys are all right. But a lot of the guys that are just, they're on their own, just trying to be the best possible player, they get really, really toxic, really, really fast.
All of this is a holdover from when the competitive side of the community was like by far the majority of content creators on the platform, it felt like. If you were a park creator or a My Player online content creator, you were comp or were trying to be comp. That started like I'm gonna date myself a bit. I'm gonna say it started all the way back in 2K17. I wasn't part of the 2K17 community, but I think that's right about when it started. When Park was really seriously starting to get going around that time, people were so entranced by this content online that they're like, okay, this is really, really cool. I want to do this. I want to play this, and I want to be as good as possible in this. And then, like, basketball naturally has this kind of pull-up mentality, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. You see somebody who's good, and you're like, well, I'm good, so let me test my mettle. I'm going to go out there, and I'm going to say, hey, I got next. I'm going to take you, and I'm better than you. So that all fed into the creation of this competitive community, and then wagers really took off, especially around the time of lockdown. When in 2K20, when we were in lockdown, people had nothing to do. What do you do? Watch wagers. You go on Twitch, watch a guy run up a win streak, watch people go streak breaking. Do that kind of stuff. And that part of the community has faded, but the echoes of that being by far the dominant part of the community are still hanging over the community. And it still has ramifications on people that don't even want to be part of that community anymore. But they feel pressured into doing those things because that's just the way the 2K community is, because that's the way it has been for years, even though it's not as popular as it always was.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm getting a little philosophical here, but, you know, the times have changed. The Sims side of the community, the guys who are just here to hoop and get buckets and play like their favorite NBA players, or some unique concept of basketball, like this is how I want to play, you know, those guys get lost in the shuffles a lot of times. And then the guys that are all new to the game every year come in and they're like, okay, what do I do? It's like, okay, you have to be a point guard and you have to make this point guard build and it has to have these attribute requirements. And if you're going to use a jump shot, it has to be one of these like 5 different jump shots. And it better be Patty Mills or you're running a B+ jump shot at best. And then we're also going to tell you that you have to play in this specific way and you have to trigger these specific animations at these specific times. And it's completely overwhelming for a brand new player. And on top of that, there's this expectation that if they do all of it, they are winners. That they will just win by default because they've been told it's so powerful, which is part of where the toxicity comes from, is they just expect to win because they know that they're doing, or they assume that they're doing at the very least, all of the most effective stuff. And that's not always true. It may not even be the best way for that person to experience the game.
But they do it because it's what they've been told to do by the greater majority.
The fact is, psychologically, you put a bunch of people in a crowd, more people will do what's popular just because it's popular than will be people who do what they want to do. So they just assume that this is the popular way to play, this is how you're supposed to play 2K, so that's how I'm going to play.
Yep.
And that's why you get these guys who run random rec and they have these meta point guard builds and all the meta sigs and the meta, and you know, all the meta, and then they absolutely suck more than this guy who just bought the game, dropped $20 in his Nikola Jokic player profile build, and is hitting 1 out of 3 threes in the corner with his bog standard animation store Nikola Jokic NBA jump shot. He hits more than the meta guard running the T-Mac base.
Yeah.
That's why it happens. That's part of the reason it happens. I don't want to say that's the only reason, but you know what it is.
Well, I feel like as much as we can complain about the community and where it's gone, like as a whole, we're not trying to bash any specific person.
No, there is absolutely a part of the community that should feel like they're entitled to be comp. They are better than other people. There's a reason that the meta is the meta. There's a reason you're supposed to run that. Look, if you are meta or you want to be meta, you have to understand why the meta is the meta and what the weaknesses are that come with that and how to get around it. Why is it as effective as it is? How do I maximize it? And how do I limit the weaknesses? That is the meta. It's not just picking options from an options menu. That's what so many people miss. Do we have anything else to mention about the builder?
Are we even talking about the builder anymore?
I don't know. How long has it been since we talked about the builder?
It feels like 10 minutes at this point. It's probably more than that. I suppose closing thoughts on the builder. What are your thoughts? I've already kind of mentioned my thoughts, at least for a guard build. What are your thoughts on potential first builds of the year? Understanding that we haven't put our hands on the builder yet.
Well, if I'm making a guard, I want to make a guard somewhat similar to Chris Paul, if I can. There are plenty of other point guards I'd like to model my game around. I've tried to, and anytime I've tried to, a lot of times people don't understand where I'm coming from or why I'm playing the way that I am playing, whether it's effective or not. So I just like, okay, like Chris Paul is a point guard I very much respect the way that he played the game of basketball.
Plays. He's still around. He's on the Spurs now.
Barely. But yeah, you're right. He is. And he's probably going to have a pretty decent season, honestly. But if I'm going to model my game after anyone, it's probably prime Chris Paul, like 09, 2010, 2011 Chris Paul. So there's that. But I don't know exactly how that build's going to work out. Like, if I make a build, I'll post a video. I plan on doing build videos this year. Not too many. We'll see how it goes. If you guys are interested, I'll put some more out. But I also want to do more unique stuff and stuff that people haven't seen. Now, I'm sure people are going to put out Chris Paul builds. But I want to, like, these other point guards that I'm thinking about, like Bob Cousy. I make a Bob Cousy build.
Jason Williams build.
Well, there is a Jason Williams template, so that's at least a place to start.
Right? I forgot about that, honestly.
But, just players that you don't find in the builder. Like, who is making a I gotta pick something random here.
Who's making a Joe Dumars build?
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, who's making a Joe Dumars build?
You're welcome. Also, Joe Dumars is actually a good player. Like
Dennis Johnson.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird one.
Modern NBA players. Who's the center for the Pistons? He wears number 0.
Jalen Duren?
Yeah, who's making a Jalen Duren build?
You're obviously not a Pistons fan. No, I'm not either, but you're obviously not a Pistons fan.
Most people in the 2K community are a fan. Like, there's a 1 in 30 chance that you're a Pistons fan. Probably slightly higher than that. The Pistons are more popular than, like, the Hornets, but still.
Wow, just throw shade at the Hornets, why don't you?
That's part of being the NBA, being a part of the NBA community, not just the 2K community. I thought you knew this.
Anyways, we're getting off topic again.
As a big man build, though, like I said, I want to try running. I want to run some tests around like legend hook specialist. I'm seriously considering making a legend hook specialist build to start the year.
Which means you are getting a straight up 99 close shot.
Yep. No, and running it in 3s and 5s. 3s and 5s, not 2s and 1s.
A 99 close shot and a 97 post control.
Yeah.
At the same time.
And running it in 3s and 5s, not 2s and 1s, because I'd rather run 3s or 5s than 2s or 1s. I hate 1s. I tolerate 2s. That opinion has improved drastically over this last year because I was forced to play 2s. So I actually tolerate 2s now instead of despising them too. And then 3s is quality and 5s is quality, depending on what mood I'm in.
No love for 4s.
Nobody plays 4 on 4.
True, but we have 4 people in our group as our main people. So, oh well. Anyways, so basically, for guard you're looking at Chris Paul. For big you're looking at Kareem.
Yeah, Kareem.
There's a few different places that I could go. Honestly, I'm not.
You're making a wing. You making another Kobe build?
I could.
You going Kawhi?
I absolutely loved my Kobe build from this year. Now, for those of you that don't know what that is, I don't know if I probably mentioned it before. I don't know if I've specifically said what its attributes are. We're talking a 6'6" shooting guard with a 91 driving layup, 86 driving dunk, because I forgot that contact dunks start at 87. I was just getting a solid dunk rating, which it still gets plenty of dunks. But
they start at 89 this year, by the way. Or
87.
They do start at 87.
Yeah, it's the same as it was in 24, at least for pro contact dunks. Anyways, 91 driving layup, 86 driving dunk, 92 mid-range, 86 three-point, 88 ball handle, and then a 75 perimeter defense and an 84 strength too. This build was absolutely everything I wanted it to be in every aspect of the game. I didn't expect it to be the absolute best ball handler. It was just a good ball handler. I didn't expect it to be a lockdown defensively. It was just solid based on how I played, with some limitations, of course, because of only having a 75 perimeter defense. But it was an absolutely lethal scorer. I love that build to death. I used it a ton. I think it's my second highest rate or overall build, behind my first build of the year, which I used a ton early on, of course. So I truly love that build.
I'll give you a tip. This is a tip that doesn't come from me, but I've heard several people say this. 2K is warped around its cover athlete or athletes. Try making a Vince Carter build this year.
I'm gonna look at it because I made one of those this year as well, in 24 as well. Technically, it only had a 97 driving dunk because I didn't want to spend all the way up to 99. But I did have a build like that, and driving dunks were nice. Driving dunks were nice. It was weird though. Like, those of you that use Dunk Meter, point guard standing under the rim with his hands up, like fully under the rim in the restricted arc with his hands up. Sliver of a meter. Lockdown is riding you from the free throw line. Half the bar is green. It's just... Now, from what I've heard, they've changed that, and that sounds like a good thing to me. That if a defender is, out of position under the rim, too far under the rim, that it's better than a guy riding you. And I think that's a good thing. It makes more sense to me and the way I look at it anyways. But yeah, I can see that, because if you look at the whole thing about the cover athletes, if you look at 24, Kobe was the cover athlete. I just got done raving about my Kobe build, and 6'6" was the best height of any build all year. So if you think that's the case again, Vince Carter, I mean, I'm not going to complain if I can make a Vince Carter build. Are you kidding me? And I think there's one last thing we can talk about when it comes to wrapping up the builder, and I'll tie it in with this conversation. I'll quickly mention as an aside, if I was going to make a big man build, I'm kind of leaning towards a Jokic build, but that's because I am a playmaker. So like a post-scoring playmaker kind of big man would actually be a pretty good build for me.
On the low key, I'm also considering making a Zion Williamson build, but I have no idea how exactly that's going to work. Like, I have seen Laker fans playmaking slasher big man, and that's not quite what I want. So that's definitely not it. We will see what I make, but that build probably had too much defense, if I'm being honest. And people are like, "Oh, you make a big man and he ain't got defense." Yeah, I make a big man. He ain't got defense. You gonna make
Oh, it's a Zion build. It better have some beef.
You make a guard that ain't got defense. Huh?
So anyways, I think the last thing to talk about with regards to the builder as well is cap breakers. Now, one more time to make sure everybody understands, at least this is the way I understand it, and I'm pretty sure this is accurate. Cap breakers allow you to improve attributes up to the limitations put on your build by its physical profile.
Yes.
So if your build has a maximum, absolute maximum, based on your physical profile of a 94 three-point shot, you can't improve it past a 94. But this is where I'm going to be looking at it based on how you unlock and when you unlock these cap breakers. So I believe it was said somewhere 15 cap breakers. Is that right? Or
That's what I've heard. That's what I've heard.
Okay. So if it's 15 cap breakers, say you get them in 3 patches of 5, you unlock 5 extra attributes all at once. Well, what if I take a build that has the ability to get a 99 driving dunk, say, on this Vince Carter build we were just talking about, but I build the build with a 94 dunk rating, and then cap breaker it up to 99 to get my legend posterizer, and so on and so forth. Now I'm saving the most expensive part of my build in that 94 to 99 overall or attribute range for cap breakers, where it doesn't affect my overall.
I could see making like a Magic Johnson build that way. Here's the thing. This is something I will warn the community about. Some people are going to go in day one saying there's 15 cap breakers. So I'm going to make my build 5 short here, 5 short here, and 5 short here of where I want it to be. And then 98% of the community will never get that 15 cap breaker threshold. Your builds will never be done.
Yeah. So here's the way I'm looking at it. Based on the amount of rep that I expect to get in the year. Now I have a history with 2K. We've been playing 2K online since 2K19.
800 or so hours every year. 800 or so hours every year in a
or more.
Yeah, in a 365-day year or more.
So I look at this and I say, okay, based on now, I have no idea where these things unlock, these attribute caps, these cap breakers. But if I look at it and say, okay, I expect that I can get 5 pretty quick, and then I might be able to get 10 by the end of the year, but the 15 is going to be for, the guys that are ahead of me, I might say, okay, well, maybe not for my first build, but what about for my second build? I make a build that is 5 short in one of its key attributes.
Especially if you've already got your first 5.
Yeah, that's another thing. If you're the kind of guy that only makes a couple builds a year, make your first build without looking at that. And then don't make your second build until you have cap breakers unlocked already. Then you can slot them in right away. That sounds like a good plan to me. So I start the year with a 5'9" guard that's a play shot type, basically. And then a couple of months in, I have my first 5 attribute caps, and I'm looking to make my second build, and I say, you know what? This Vince Carter build is looking pretty good, and I can build it with a 94 driving dunk and immediately up its driving dunk up to 99, as long as I have the ability to with its physical profile.
I might have found the hook.
And you're not talking about post hooks, I assume?
No, I'm talking about 2K. Okay, let me be cynical here for a second.
As if we haven't done that already.
So you know what your 2K build costs, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now let me just paint this picture for you. You've got your build up to 99. It costs you what would be $100 worth of VC to get there, whether you dropped 100 on it right away, or you said, you know what, I'm going to drop 50 and let me grind the rest of it. And you grinded it for a month, right? So you got your build up to a 99 overall. Okay, now you got your cap breakers. Each point of cap breaker costs 25,000 VC. So you put 5 points into your driving dunk to take it from 94 to 99. That's 125,000 VC.
That would be a major oof.
Well, there goes another like $35. Okay, well, let me get my 3-point shot up to 89 from 84. There goes another $35 on that same build. Okay, now let me get my strength up so I can go from 75 to like 80 and get this badge or whatever. There goes another $35. All of a sudden, this $100 build just costs you what? Like $220. Oops. There's the hook. You wait. We will see. You're making a 101 overall build, okay? It's gonna be more expensive. Now, here's what I think 2K should do. It should be you've maxed out your attribute, apply your cap breakers, no extra VC cost, you just get the attribute point. That's what it should be. We're already paying too much for builds. Even after they reduced the cost of builds last year, it's still twice as much as what it should be, bare minimum. It should be $20 to start and $50 max, and even that's expensive. Like, I think sometimes 2K players have played so much 2K that they lose perception on what is expensive for an item like this and what is not. In other games, in other gaming communities, things that are like builds, people would look at a purchase cost of $50 and go, "Are you insane?" Even $10 would be steep, but respectable. That's a fifth of what 2K charges. So, just keep things in perspective. Don't let 2K take small dubs on massive L's and hide the massive L by pointing out the small dub. That is not how this works. Keep things in perspective. What are you looking at?
I was checking. I thought I saw something about cap breakers in the Discord, but it was just about like how they're used. It does. So I'll just go ahead and say it because I just read it. It does allow you to push up to your build's physical limit. That's what we talked about before.
Yeah.
While you're upgrading, it shows you what effect it has on badges and animations unlocks
as you're going, so you can make an informed unlock choice, because once you slot it in, it's permanent.
It's permanent, and they do transfer across saves, as far as I know, which makes sense.
Yeah, that's been confirmed.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, if they make you pay for it, call them out on it, because that ain't right.
Yeah. No kidding.
So do we have any gameplay beats we want to hit? We kind of touched on gameplay a little bit as we started getting into the builder, but bigger courts are really nice. If you've seen the 5v5 gameplay,
you've been going on and on and on about these bigger courts ever since that was a thing.
I'm a post player with a decently high pass accuracy who can't hit 3-point shooters without their man playing both me and them.
True.
This is 1 year where I might finally be able to say, "You double me?"
Because you're right, that hasn't been a thing unless you are a legit elite passer as a big man.
I legitimately got mileage out of pass faking to get people to run away from me so that I could take a shot one-on-one as a post scorer, because they would just run back and forth between me and the other guy, me and the other guy, me and the other guy. I was like, okay, go fetch.
But you actually held the stick behind your back.
Yep.
There are a lot of things that, like I told you a little bit ago before we started recording, I'm cautiously optimistic on the gameplay side.
Like, offline modes look like they're going to be far better this year, which is good for me.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of times that I look at offline modes, and anybody that has played online understands this. If you get put on an AI in an online mode, it can be very painful depending on what your build is.
You have like 2 options total. And then they never help like they're supposed to.
If you're put on an AI, you have 3 options as far as I can tell. If you're a ball handler, you can try and break them down to limited success or to run them off of a screen, and that can be effective. If you're a spot-up shooter, you stand still and hope that they leave you, or try and cheese it a little bit by setting a screen for somebody that is handling the ball on a human player and see if you can get a switch, and then the human player, defender, doesn't understand there's a switch, and then you're left open on a pick and pop or pick and roll.
Because
I've done that.
That only works because 2K's Switch AI is terrible.
Right, and I've done that to limited success as well. Or if you're a finisher, like if you're a post player and your matchup can't guard you, it doesn't matter. But if you're like a driving player and you can't get the momentum to drive on your man, you just use the get open mechanic, get in behind him, catch a backdoor pass or a lob, and finish. So, anyways, in 25, you'll only be stuck if your matchup is a really good defender, which might happen still a lot in my career, online games.
It depends on what the threshold is for being considered a good defender. It sounds like it's a scale. So it's not like a threshold where it's like, oh, they have an 85 plus perimeter D, so they make all the right decisions, and they have an 84 or less perimeter D, so they make some wrong decisions quite frequently. It sounds like it's a scale. Right.
There is something I will say. Now remember, they took Hoff badges and moved them down, right? This is something that I'm a little bit worried about. Because with the inclusion of legend badges, I know you and I have been looking at this as something that, they're taking the threshold to be able to do stuff and sliding it up. What if they haven't? Hear me out on this. Something I remember hearing from the very first Community Day video I watched was that all of the NBA players that they saw had Hall of Fame badges at highest. Those players are still going to play like their old selves at their elite levels in those categories. What if the legend badges is only for my players, basically, so that you can, basically it's if you do make a build that specializes in this, you can be absolutely lethal in this category. More so than you should be, to help incentivize building a specialist build.
I understand the concern, but I'll counter with this. You're going to add a new tier of badges to incentivize people to make specialized builds. If you don't make them overpowered, and you instead just make them what the old max was, what's the point? You're just compressing the scale.
I get what you're saying, but that's not the point I'm getting at. You make a good point, but that's not the point I'm getting at. What if the threshold for a good defender, at least a solid defender, is still, let's look at defensive badges. Okay, so they moved Gold Challenger Gold Challenger was... I'm trying to remember where it was at. I was just looking at this earlier today in 24.
Bronze was 75.
Not bronze. Which bronze is 71 in here. But anyways, in 2K25, Challenger, 82 for silver, 92 for gold, 95 for Hoff, 99 for legend. So I feel like they've changed that. I'm trying to remember. I want to say maybe they changed that.
Gold, here, let's do this. Go to Anchor. Tell me Anchor.
You mean
Paint Patroller? Yes.
So we'll go off of block rating because interior... Quick aside, interior defense requirements for Paint Patroller still too low. As a whole. Like the 89 to 99 for Legend, that's fine. But 60 interior defense and a 74 block... Like, what? 77 interior defense for gold to a 93 block rating? Really? That's all we're requiring of people? I spike my block rating and I'm a good interior defender. Got it. I digress. So, what do you want to know about Paint Patroller?
Give me the block rating requirements and I'll tell you.
74, 84, excuse me, 93, 97, 99.
They raised those. like almost across the board.
No, they didn't.
The silver one is lower, but bronze is okay. No, bronze was 77.
Bronze was 77.
Silver was 86.
Silver was 87. Gold is the same at 93.
Silver was 86. Chase down was
99.
87. Silver was 86. Chase down was 87.
I thought it was 87, 88.
Then gold was 93,
And
94.
gold was 93. Gold was 93. That hasn't changed. And then 97 for Hoff instead of 99, and then Legend at 99. They actually lowered the requirements for Paint Patroller for bronze and silver.
Well, they better have reduced their effectiveness then.
Right, that's the point I'm making, because you look at, this is why I made the comparison to the NBA players. You look at the NBA players, none of them have Legend badges. If Hall of Fame badges, if Bronze through Hoff are still the same effectiveness, and Legend is just Hoff plus, I can still play the same level of interior defense in this case with an 84 instead of an 87 block rating. They made it cheaper.
But then if you go up here, this might be the other side of it then. If you go up against a Legend badge that is so ridiculously overpowered,
Silver's not going to cut it.
Silver's not going to cut it like it did against Hall of Fame.
That's fair. Okay, so we compare that to our driving layup game.
Now silver's like bronze instead of, if that makes sense.
So I'm trying to think, what would be the layups, like layup in traffic badge? Layup mix master? That's more for, your hops and spins and stuff like that. Physical finisher? That's like bully, I would think.
Kind of, yeah.
Is there a layup badge for just finishing in traffic with a layup? I guess
I think physical finisher is the closest it gets.
And you need strength for that. I guess you're looking between that and layup mixmaster as a smaller build. So, I guess we'll take physical finisher. I mean, no, because that doesn't really make sense. At least not to me. Anyways, I look at this and I think, okay, instead of getting gold badges in the low 80s, we'll just take layup mixmaster for your, your spins, your hops, that kind of stuff, layups. Instead of getting gold badges in the low to mid 80s, you have to go up to a 93 for gold. And if everything is the same effectiveness, they've lowered the effectiveness of layups by making them more expensive and increased the effectiveness of blocks and interior defense by lowering the requirements.
So, layups, we admitted last year, were on the upper end of balanced, right?
Yeah, and I get that. It's just there's a part of me that looks at all this and is worried about the balance of certain things. And it's hard for me to put it into words how I'm feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you can kind of understand, you can at least, kind of understand where I'm coming from. There's a part of me that's worried.
The only saving point here is the fact that for everything that you mention as a concern, I agree with you, it's concerning, this, that, or the other reason. There's always a counterpoint. Now, I suppose there's always a counterpoint. Like, even if you go to the 2K24 builder, you could say, man, these layups are way overpowered. Like, you can get all these Hall of Fame badges and an 84 driving layup rating. Look at this. And then you go, well, that's true, but look at how cheap it is to be a rim protector at even a low level. Like, these wings should have bronze anchor. And you're like, yeah, that's probably true. I'm surprised at how many of them don't, but, It's not that expensive to have like a 62 interior and a 77 block rating. It's not expensive at all to just be an okay rim protector, I guess. So there's always a counterpoint to everything, but especially as we look at these things this year, where they've moved the gold badges to, where the Hall of Fame badges are at compared to last year, and now with the new Legend badges being over the top of everything, every time there's a a comparison point. There's always a counterpoint. And at the very least, despite as much concern as I had going into this year, at the very least I will say, it doesn't look like this year's builder. We'll see what they do with the 5/9s, but it doesn't look like this year's builder is going to be more imbalanced than last year's builder necessarily. There's always going to be a loophole. Somebody will find it. The meta will develop. We'll see how it goes. But we're not looking at a busted builder, which was what I really feared we were going to get when we started getting news.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is. And at a certain point, I have to stop and think and go, these 6'8s have been a pain in my side as an over-tall big man for years. I've been playing, a 7 foot, 7'1", even 7'2" player in 3v3s since 2K19 when I started.
Which that was the meta then, but when the meta went shorter, you stayed tall.
Yeah, so everything, I've been off meta or completely, out of the meta, period, for years now, and these smaller big men have been a pain in my side as these guys that can play rim defense as good as me, rebound as good as me, finish inside over me from time to time. They shoot better. And then
they're faster and they can handle the ball.
And I can't really score over them so much. So, what is the point of being tall at that point? And I've always said, well, 2K will balance it. 2K will balance it. 2K will balance it. I kind of gave up on that and just said, you know what? I'll just take the advantages where I can get them. I'll just be me and just do what I can. Maybe it's just me. This is the first year in a while where I've gone, okay, maybe I was right, and maybe these smaller big men are finally getting put down a bit, and there's a reason to be taller. But it might just be me, and at the same time, the other half of this piece is 2K might say, yeah, it's true, these smaller bigs do more, they are more effective, but that's the way we want it. There is no perfectly balanced meta, so we're just going to go with this because this is what we think either leads to the healthiest meta or is exactly where we want the game to be for one reason or another. So, when you look at changes in the builder, you might say, well, these tall guards that we're supposed to get, let's say the game comes out, the 5'9s are not nearly as good as they looked. And these tall guards are still looking like the meta. You say, oh, these tall guards, they're just ruining the meta. 2K has no respect for the small guards at all. What if 2K just wants the tall guards to just be better? For one reason or another. And it will never be the small guards over. I hate to be the doom bringer of all of this, but sometimes that is just the case. And you gotta take the advantages where you can get them. If you really want to be a small guard, there are some advantages to that. You just gotta take advantage of it. Take it from an over tall big man, a guy who plays with a 7'2" on the threes court, and is not a post scorer, by the way. I'm a rim protecting stretch. So, you gotta take your lumps. But
you say that like that build doesn't have a post game. It does.
It has some post game, but it is not a post score.
Yeah.
You got to take your lumps, but you can also take your dubs. Know what they are, know why you are who you are, and why you are the way you are, and just own it. You don't have to be meta. And if you are meta, then flip it. Know why you're meta. Know how it works. Break it all down so you can make it as effective as you want it to be. Heck, you beat me. Your build's better than mine. And if I beat you, I don't want to hear it. Because I'm sick of hearing it.
I'm sick of it too. You win a game with a non-meta build, and then the guy across from you is calling you trash because you're not meta. And then it's like, bro, I just beat you by 15.
With a worse build.
With a quote-unquote worse build. Are you really coming at me right now? Calling me trash after I just whooped you by 15? Really? Again, I digress.
So, one last thing before we close up shop here. Unless you have something else you want to add on the builder or gameplay or the meta.
Nope. I'll just wrap up by saying what I told you earlier before we started recording. I am approaching the gameplay as cautiously optimistic. There are a lot of changes, and I'm not going to know if they're good or not. I'm hoping that they're good things. Like the new shot contest system and the basically it's like defensive speed boosting by flicking the right stick, and the new foot planting for dribbling, and all of this stuff. I hope that it's good, but I don't know. I haven't played it. I'm cautiously optimistic because I expect there to be problems.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the builder, I think you can tell I'm not cautiously optimistic. I'm just cautious. I'm hoping for the best, but I can see potential for trouble.
Especially with them 5.9s. Well,
so we'll see what happens.
Let me take a second now as we close this first podcast of 2K25 to talk about my plans for 2K25. I think I did this at the start of 2K24, but I have a little bit bigger plans now. On some of my other channels, I've been uploading more consistently, and I'd like to bring that over here as well. And part of that is, like I said, I want to make some build videos. Those are really easy to make. I mean, don't be fooled. It is like 10 minutes worth of work to make a build video, depending on how you do it. So I think I could put out a few and just like see how you guys feel and see how much effort I put into it. But I want to make different builds. I don't want to just make what everybody else is making. I want to make cool stuff, unique stuff, different stuff. Or maybe based on players that don't get love on other channels or in the NBA or 2K community or whatever. You know, just be different. I ain't making a meta build. Look, if you're coming to me for a meta build, you're coming to the wrong place. There are plenty of other channels on YouTube you should go for. I don't care if I decide I want to become meta again this year. I've been meta before. I could do it again. But I might not want to go there. So it's just like, even if I did, you're not coming here for that kind of build. I'm going to get my information from another guy who knows more than I do, because he knows more than I do. So I'm just going to make cool stuff. Regarding the roster, I made a big roster last year. It got some coverage on other YouTube channels, which I thought was pretty interesting, especially considering how small this channel is. But that roster hit first page on the hot tab or total downloads tab, whatever that tab is. It hit the first page on that tab, and it was like, okay, like people really respect this content. Project 1964 up and off the ground. Nice. I want to bring it forward this year, partly because I think the simulation gameplay will be better this year. I don't know that I'm going to continue bringing it forward year after year after year. It is a lot of work to do, but I want to bring it forward at least this year, maybe one more year. We will see what happens. So I want to make Project 1964 again this year. We'll see how that goes. And that includes a lot of the draft classes that go with it. I've thought about reformatting it a little bit. If I do reformat it, I will let you guys know in a video specifically about that. I haven't narrowed that down yet, exactly how I'm going to do it. We will see. I'm going to wait to make that decision until well after 2K25 drops. I might even have the base roster done before I make that decision. So we will see. I want to make sliders this year. I want to put out a set of sliders that you can use for Play Now. I'm probably going to base it on low impact shooting, but you know, I will do my best to make it work for everyone if I can. Again, that's the kind of thing that we're going to have to wait and see how 2K25 plays to know exactly how I'm going to make those sliders. I do want to make a slider set. I've dabbled in it. I have sliders out this year. They've gone through like 6 different major changes. None of them play identical to each other because I was trying to achieve different goals in each set. And it's like, okay, this is nonsense at this point. But they do technically exist if you want to go check them in 2K24. They're okay. The percentages are high. The gameplay's a little off. I didn't really grind it like I should have if I was going to get serious about it. I wasn't serious about it. And the last thing is, I have thought about making Play Now Online content, Arc or other My Player game mode content, and my NBA content. Sims or a career or like a coach mode rebuild kind of thing, more long term. We'll see if I ever get around to that. I cannot promise that. That is a lot more work, even than the roster. I know the roster is coming this year. Sliders will be coming at some point. And the podcast will come as needed. This is not weekly, nor is it monthly, nor is it seasonal. It is when we feel like it, and we feel like we have something to talk about. So, what was that, like 5-6 episodes in 2K24?
I can't remember. Something like
so
that.
So it's not going to be super frequent. But yeah, so if I'm going to put a lot of that stuff on this channel, there's going to be stuff I don't put on this channel that will end up on one of my PlayStation profiles. So if you want to keep an eye on it yourself, like, that's up to you. Most of it will or should end up here. So with that being said, make sure you subscribe. Ring the bell for notifications for more episodes of this podcast, and when I put out that content, such as the slider set or the 1964 roster and draft classes, which should be coming at some point this year. Hopefully sometime soon after release. I have no idea how long it's going to take to port. We will see. And don't forget to leave a comment, some questions for us to talk about in a future podcast, things you'd like to see in the roster, things I got wrong, things we got wrong, whatever. Let us know. And hey, let us know what your first 2K25 build is looking like. What you want to build, the position you want to play. Remember, 60% of the community roughly wants to be a point guard already, and only 1 out of every 5 positions on the court is point guard. So you can't all be point guard. Keep that in mind. But I would like to hear what you want to build for 2K build. Heck, maybe it'll inspire me. So that would be cool. At least for me, it would be cool. Maybe it probably will be for you too, I hope. And with that being said, I think we're done here.
I think so.
So we will see you later. Welcome to 2K25, ladies and gentlemen. It'll be a heck of a year for one reason or another.
Let's hope it's a good one. Until next time, see you guys.
Goodbye.